Welcome to week one of the LGBA 2K PSN podcast. I am Thorpe, and with me tonight is Nickyp, my old GM of the champion 76ers. How are you doing, Nicky?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for having me tonight.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, we had an interesting week. We did not get to do a podcast last week because there was nothing to talk about. So, we wanted to go over some trades. Where I just had it up. All right. So, Nickyp, would you care to lead with your trade?
Yes. So, the main center that we were targeting and bidding, Navy Nick, who unfortunately, at the time went for 250K more than what we could pay, so we had to back out of him. We ended up going on Mamba instead, who you can see on the other side of the trade. Ended up being a really good centerman, but we ended up, the main guy that we play with in Pro-Am and Rec is Navy Nick. We know him well. We know he's probably the best center in the league. Not a knock on Black Mamba at all, but being able to trade Black Mamba and just literally, they just said throw in a TC. They didn't care who, so we just literally threw in Let Me Be Great. I think he had like the lowest overall or the worst record or something like that for Navy Nick. So it was pretty much a 1-for-1. I don't know why they wanted the TC, but yeah, it was a 1-for-1 trade, and I would say we definitely won it. Just because we got the guy that we wanted, and we know that he can play, I believe, 4 a week, and yeah, his stats last season speak for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Now, do you think, now that I'm actually thinking about this, do you think Portland was trying to give him up because of the cap? Maybe I know they've made after Nickyp, or not after Nickyp, after Navi Nick. After that trade, they made 2 other trades. Like maybe they were trying to lose the 6.25, I believe, just to maybe get a couple other guys with maybe a little higher contracts.
Let's see. You know what? I haven't actually looked at that. Let's pull this up. Okay, so we have Portland. Currently, they have 2.75 million cap space. They're actually 1 player over the limit right now.
Ooh.
They have 11 guys currently on their roster. The players that they traded for in Ali,
only 500K.
He's a 500K contract.
Second team All NBA right last season. Solid.
Yeah, all team NBA second team last season went for 500K. Definitely, I would say an underrated player for sure. Could they have done it for cap? I mean, it was a difference of like 2.25 mil, I believe.
Oh, I mean, they traded they received 2 500K guys. So maybe it wasn't
I
a
would
cap.
say, maybe it could have been, if you look at Navy Nick's stats for the week and how he did, it could have been performance. Like if you have 6.25 mil on a guy, and with how he did last week for them, they might have overestimated his ability. Like you can't just have a center out there and expect him to carry. For instance, he went 0-2, 7.5 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. Compared to last season, that's a big difference in some stats. He's like halved in some areas. I would say they just expected him to be able to do more. And I mean, as a center, you can only do so much. You're not really in a position offensively where you can completely control the game. Like if your team can't hit shots, you could rebound every shot, but if it's not going in, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I would just say they just overestimated his abilities. He's an amazing center. He's the best center in the league. But with that,
he doesn't have people around him that
you got to have people around you.
Yeah.
There's very few positions, I think, where you can have not many players around you. I would say like maybe point guard and small forward are the 2 for me that I could say we could just throw one guy out and expect him to carry. Center's not one of those positions. You got to have another player with you at least one.
Somebody that could shoot the 3 ball, pretty much.
Exactly, someone that can shoot the 3. If you have like let's say a stretch 4 that can just knock those 3s, and if he shoots, let's say 60%, those 40% he misses, if you can grab those boards, it's game over. Even if you don't have the best ball handler, it can essentially be you 2 if you're good enough at boards, because you can shoot up whatever you want. But that's my take on it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Ali for Tetsui. I don't know who Tetsui is.
I have no idea who Tetsui is. I do know Ali quite well.
Yeah, Ali.
I've been playing with him for quite a long time.
Solid player,
Only thing I don't like about him is I've never heard him use the mic in all this time I've known him, but he makes up for it in being a very good player.
He was on our team until he just never showed up, and we traded him, and then he ended up becoming pretty good. So, yeah. All right, Hitman Hart for legacy, we'll say. I know Hitman Hart was Memphis GM last season. He had a good season for the team he had, and that was one of the trades I was thinking that the Heat kind of threw away. Like, I know he's on a TC right now, but like he could easily be a center in this league.
He could definitely be a starter. I agree with that. Like if he's on the TC, he could easily move up. And I think now the question is, did he sign up after or before bidding? That's the big question.
He was randomly assigned, so he was randomly assigned, but he's still on TC, and the Heat did not give him a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I would definitely say like, and he's proven in the league. I'd say
Right.
maybe the only thing is they didn't think he was worth the $2 million contract. That's like
Yeah,
the only thing.
I don't
I'd
understand
say.
how. I mean, he is a vet, so that might be why he got a $2 million contract.
Anyone, essentially how they did the rules this season is if you signed up before bidding, you didn't get a bid, you get randomly assigned with a $500,000 contract. If you sign up after bidding, so literally like a minute after bidding starts, for instance, you get randomly assigned, but you get a $2 million contract. So all those guys who are coming in late to the league are going to get a big contract. The reasoning behind this is to prevent people from bringing in their friends from their Pro-Am league who might be well known. Like someone like Cool Viper, for instance. I know I've seen that guy in Young Precise's videos. So if maybe like if he wasn't known in the league and Hoodie Merc got him to sign up late, it would kind of be to prevent that. So it's not as big of like, I get this 500K stud. Instead, you get a $2 million stud, which is harder to put into your roster.
Yeah, because you might not have the space for it. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't think about it like that. We got Domi. I believe that's the same Domi we had last season, right? Is that the?
Would we be? Let's look at. Yeah, it should be the same Domi. Pretty well known on the Xbox,
point guard.
or not on the PlayStation side for hockey. He's
a good
point guard.
Yeah, so.
He has a very good small forward as well.
We're still looking at that.
He's pretty good. I mean, he's pretty well known on LG as well. So the fact that I believe he went rather cheap, if I remember. Let's go take a look at.
I think he was a 500K, or was he not?
Let's see. Yeah, no, he's a 500K player. Played 2 games last week, and with that, once the webpage
I don't
loads
even know what
here,
team he's on. Where did he go? To Portland?
he went to the Rockets. He got traded for its LTH. Yeah. Funny enough, Invariance traded for 3 guys this week that I know quite well. But he did start off the week 0-2. There was a forfeit game against the Kings, which is my team, and I think we were up by like 44-22 at halftime. So yet again, it's another guy. He had 2 games. He got blown out. You can't really.
Yeah, he played
fault.
He played the Knicks and the Kings. So
he played the Knicks and the Kings.
He played probably the best 2 teams in the league. So yeah.
And he played a very good line in the Kings. We did have numerous TCs in that game. We had multiple TCs, but still, those TCs are actually like top-notch guys. And I mean, when he played the Knicks, I mean, they lost 77-36. So I'm assuming, it was the Brownis, Scholes, and PSN. Yeah, he played good players for sure.
Yeah, he played a sweat team.
I would say yet again, that's probably another trade where they were thinking that
he wasn't.
He should be able to carry. But I mean, you're playing 2 of the best lines in LGBA.
Yeah.
You can't really expect much out of a guy when he's with a team that barely scraped by this week. So
I agree. Now to the last trade, Elevate for ACK and God's Plan. I don't know any of those people.
I know the players on the Bulls, the guys that the Bulls gave away. I don't know who Elevate is, so I can only speak to the one side. I'd say they're pretty decent 2K players. I mean, for the LGBA, they're going to do just fine. I wouldn't say they're necessarily like your Game 5 lineup, but they're guys that you could have on your roster or to fill in. Nothing like crazy. I wouldn't say it's like the Navy Nick trade or the Ali trade, anything.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
not like a.
They're depth players, and I think they'll do fine in that role as a depth player.
All right, now on to team stats and standings. We said it before. Knicks, Kings on top. Like we all could have guessed that. My biggest surprise, in my opinion, was the Detroit Pistons. Did not suspect that, and the Heat. I did not think they would be second and third in the East.
Really? Okay.
I thought the Bulls and Bucks were going to be a lot better.
I definitely thought the Bulls would be better. I thought it was going to be Bulls number 1, maybe Knicks number 2, just based off the fact that I mean it's cool Viper, league
and
MVP.
yeah, hooded Merc.
And Hooded Merc. Yeah, it's two guys. They were in the finals
Yeah,
last
they ran the
year.
finals.
Essentially, it was a team that there was only one team in the league that could beat them, and it was the 76ers.
Yep.
There was any other team in the finals. They swept them. Like they were on another level. They had a line that was undefeated until Game 3 of the final, or Game 5 of the finals, I believe.
Yep.
It was like they were. I don't know what's happening this week. Maybe bad availability. There's a lot of factors they could play. It looked like their top line did go 3-1, and their second line went 0-2.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it could just
without,
be.
I'd say depth issues from the looks of it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean that's still decent. Like if your top line's gonna win game 1 and 2, and your second line's gonna lose game 3 and 4, you can get game 5.
You can get game 5. That is a strategy. And I think that definitely could work. It's just a question of if there's an upset though, because that you're expecting your first line to be able to win
every
3 games.
Yep. Completely agree.
That's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I would say if they can fix their depth issues, maybe spread out the talent a little bit better, they might be able to go like 5-1 each week, maybe even 6-0. But it'll be tough to go 6-0 if they can't get their depth in check.
Yep.
I wouldn't worry about the first line though. I think those guys 3-1's amazing. Like what? Let's see what line they lost to. They lost to the Heat.
Yeah, who's above them?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's surprising. Okay.
So, are we? How do you think the East is gonna like play out at the end of this next upcoming week? Any changes that are big?
I think we're still gonna see the Wizards at the bottom. I think just the team that the Wizards have, there's not much they're gonna be able to do. I think the only thing, if luck is in their factor, and there's certain guys that sign up that they get on their TC that are like top-notch players. Kind of what happened to the 76ers last season. We got really lucky with like the depth we got from RAs. Even the Kings this season, I can say that with some of our TCs. If they can get that, I think they could move up. But without that, they're probably going to stay in the bottom. Bulls should move up. Heat should move down. I think the Pistons could stay right where they are. Knicks, I think they're... I mean, unless we beat them, they're going to go undefeated again next week. I think both the Kings and the Knicks, one of them's going to lose next week, I think, but they're going to be undefeated other than that. Other than the one game that we play, both teams aren't going to drop the rest of the 5 games.
You guys play them Wednesday. That'll be the game to watch.
That's going to be one to watch for sure. It's going to be depending on availability for both teams. I think both lines are capable of beating each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to come down to who has the availability and who's feeling it that night.
All right, so we'll move on to the West. Kings obviously on top. Rockets 3-3. I mean, the West is obviously hurting. From 3 down, honestly, that order could be different. Like it could change.
I would say even like from 2 down. Like I would say even the Lakers. Like I would say the only teams that are really up there that are probably going to finish top 3 for sure would be the Kings and the Rockets. I think that other than maybe the Blazers, I think Lakers, Pelicans, and Warriors, they could swap. If you can carry, that's the question, I guess.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
If you can't carry,
I can't carry, Golden State's going down to 6.
I think Warriors or Blazers are going to be 5 or 6. Pelicans or Lakers are going to be
interchangeable,
3 or 4, and maybe one of them could sneak above the Rockets. Yeah. Other than that, though, I think it's Kings are going to stay number 1, and then
West
basically 2 to 4 is going to kind of move. It's going to depend on who has depth issues, availability, etc.
All right. Perfect.
One thing to point out here, points against and points for, 2 through 6, none of them are positive. If you go and look at it, that's kind of depressing, honestly. That's not good if you can't score more points than points against. And 2 through 6, I think that's just like, I just saw that when I was looking. That's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say from that.
That is, that just shows how weak the West is. I think that's what it shows. Because if you look at, even like the Eastern Conference, starting at number 5, it's a 5-point difference between points for and points against. Like they're 5 points away from being positive. And that's at like the number 5 team. whereas only the number 1 team in the West. It's a pretty big skill gap, I'd say, between the Western and Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so now I'm looking at team stats with my column on winning, but yeah, I'm looking. Got Portland averaging only 42 points a game. It's kind of really depressing.
Now, in Portland's defense, they had a forfeit loss where they got 0 points.
Okay.
So with that, the average is still going to be below 50. I don't know exactly
So you're saying
what it is.
the Warriors, my team, has the lowest.
They could. I don't know what they would have scored at halftime. It would have been. Let's say we just take the average from half. What the score was when Portland just took. They're like, well, we forfeit. They would have gotten 44 points. So they probably would be at about 43 right now. Maybe like, it would have been like really close to 43. It would be a little bit higher than what it is right now, like a titch.
Okay.
I would say like it won't move up drastically because there's 6 games, but it would move up like at least a couple points. I think Warriors are still there. Same goes for the Kings with 65.7. That should be higher. We were on track for 88 that game.
Okay. Now I do want to point out though, the Knicks do average 12 steals a game. Like that's, I know they run double locks every game. Every game they run double locks with the 2-3 zone. It's kind of toxic, but it's obviously showing up. You know, I think that'd be the big thing about playing the Knicks is beating that 2-3.
I would say beating the 2-3 is tough if you don't have a bunch of guys who can work well together, because you need to all be on the same page to beat the 2-3, as well as playing a good 2-3. It goes both ways. You need to be really strong. I would say early on, that's going to be an unbeatable zone. I don't think until teams start to mold and mesh and get
it'll be in the playoffs.
Chemistry. I don't know. I'm going to call it right now. I don't think until like week 5 or 6 after the trade deadline, there's not going to be a single team that's going to be able to consistently beat the zone. Maybe the Kings. I don't think there's another team, though, that
runs the zone.
Maybe even the Bulls, because they all play together. But for me, I don't think that's going to be an unstoppable defense for a good amount of time, unless someone magically comes together and finds some way to beat it.
You're right. Not really much to talk about for rosters now that I'm actually looking at it. So, well, Nicky and I have been working on a player of the week thing, which I'm going to pull up here in a second.
This is the one I sent most recently.
Yep, so it's just a brief description. We just kind of looked at, stats for each position, and we looked at who you played, records, and we just kind of just wanted to put a player for each position in each conference and just kind of have them stand out. Like they had a standout week. So we'll pull this up. Here it is. Okay, so in the West, we have Black Mamba at center. Power forward, we have Blood Panda. TTP21 at small forward. Me at shooting guard, and Nickyp at point guard. For the East, we had Brownes at the point guard. Shooting guard, we had Skulls 2K. Small forward, Rifleman Shots. Power forward, Cake Kip. And the center, MPLS Anderson. Any comments on that?
Well, if you want me to break down the West and then you break down the East, just for how we kind of came to the conclusion. Because, I mean, other than, like, minor input, I would say we kind of determined it ourselves.
Yeah.
I would say, for myself at point guard, I mean, I don't know if I should have put myself there, but I would say, due to the week I had, I mean, I'm the only player in the league who's averaging more than 10 assists per game. Doing it with an all-new group of guys that I don't believe I played with any of them last season. So I would say, right off the bat, we had good chemistry, as well as the points per game, averaging a double-double per game. Very few point guards in the league who are close to that, let alone, like I said, the only one above 10 assists per game. The next closest is a point guard on New Orleans with 9, and he's going 9-9. It's kind of the reasoning for the point guard there. For you at shooting guard, just the amount of points you put up with the team around you. Although you did go 1-3.
I did have a shitty record. That
your team only won, I believe, what was it, 1 game? If I'm not mistaken?
It was the first game, I remember.
Exactly. So for that, I mean, if you're a part of your team's only win and you're putting up the points that you are, I would say, for me right there, that was kind of the reasoning for that. There wasn't many... The only other person I was looking at, to be honest, was Cross. It was between you and Cross, and I determined it. Cross is on the second best team in the West. You're on the fifth best team. I'd say with that, got to give it to you at that point. Even though you're 1-3, he's 2-2, or 2-0. Sorry. That's the main reason.
Yep.
When we move over to small forward, we're looking at. I would say if I had to pick the player who had the best week in the entire league, it would have been TTP, just due to the fact he had defensive stats like a lockdown, he had offensive stats like a pure sharp, and he's running a pure shot. He is shooting he has one of the best field goal percentages in the league, has extremely high steals, very good assists, very good rebounds. He's probably the most well-rounded player stats-wise in the league right now. That one was the easiest one for sure. That almost required no thinking. Other than that, the person who I put in second would have probably... It was a tough call for second. I would just say TTP, easy win. If we move over to power forward, that was very lackluster. There wasn't anyone who kind of popped out to me. I just looked at number 1 and 2, which was between Blood Panda and Ritz. For me, I looked at their head-to-head when they played each other. Although Ritz did have more points, just the difference.
Oh, I mean in that game, I guess.
In that game particularly, Ritz did have more points, but just because of the blowout they had, and the fact that Blood Panda played that extra game, he played 4 games, he went 2-2, and he has the higher shooting percentage. For me, I just had to give it to Blood Panda for that reason.
Yep.
Power forward, there wasn't a standout player though. For all the other ones, it was kind of, we have this guy. Is there anyone who's better than him? For power forward, I had to go and look. As for centers go, honestly, it was between the 2 centers on the Kings. One went 2-0, one went 3-0. The other centers, the next best one after that, I believe went 1-1 on the Warriors. Everyone else was kind of, or Dustin on the Pelicans. Everyone just kind of had a pretty bad week in the West.
Yeah.
I just went Mamba over Giant due to the fact I've played with both. I know both. I could break it down, but for the most part, I just went with Mamba. He was averaging a double-double, and he was shooting any 1%. It's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so for the East, I kind of wanted to look at, I looked through this pretty heavily, I guess you can say. I did want to, I did choose Brownness at point guard. He is 4-0. Nick's, he's averaging 20 points, 7.8 assists. Kind of hard not to say that. I did look at Juma. I want to remember why I didn't pick Juma. Maybe... Oh, yeah. The teams he played, he played the Knicks and didn't really do well. He did beat the Rockets, though, and killed the Bucks. But in general, I just think Brown has had a really good week overall. And then with him at Skulls, his backcourt partner couldn't really beat that. He's 3-0, 18 points, shooting 72%, higher than me. So, got to give a shout out to him, There wasn't really many other shooting guards I was really looking at. A lot of people signed up as a shooting guard, didn't play shooting guard, Mr. Rager, he only played 1 game. If he might have played more, maybe. Yeah, that was really it for the shooting guards. For the small forward, we went with Rifleman Shots. Same thing as the shooting guards. Not that many people played that many games. The 4 games, and played small forward. Rifleman just went 3-1, had a good week, averaged 13 points, shot 65%. So he had a good week. I think it was down to Rifleman and who'd I say? Maybe Foreign. I know he's playing on a lock, averaging 9 points with 2 steals a game, but he could have had a better week, I think. His team didn't do that well to help him out either. For power forward, we went Nickyp, and he had 18.5 points, 6 rebounds as a power forward. The Heat did end up finishing 4-2 in the week, so I think he's not a normal LGer either. He's some new guy, so it's good to see that. His games might not have been the hardest games, but he overall had a good week, and most of these other guys weren't actually playing at power forward. I think the next choice would have been J.J. Jackson. Yeah. For center, MPLS Anderson, he's actually just dominating center. I know he's on the Knicks, but he's killing stat wise. 13 rebounds. He's averaging a double double, shooting 81%. Like it that's that. So I do want to say though, we'll probably end up doing that weekly. Trying to get people to not boost stats, but give people recognition when they deserve it. So give one last look of this. Any final comments, Nicky P?
For me, I mean, all I would have to say is I think when the Western teams start playing the Eastern teams, we're going to see quite a big difference in stats. I think a lot of the top players in the league are going to end up being Eastern players. And I think when it comes to the end of the season, we're going to see a ton of Eastern guys walking away with NBA All-Team. Or making, like, basically just sweeping out the awards. That's my take. That's an early prediction for I can't wait to see next week and just have a even bigger spread between the West teams, between the top and the bottom. I think it's going to be quite a big difference next week.
I agree. I do want to see more trades. There's a lot of negative records.
I agree.
More trades.
Yeah. Teams need to try to balance out their roster and get good depth so that I don't think during the regular season people are going to be able to consistently beat the Knicks or the Kings. So you might as well get good depth and try to beat the rest of the teams in your conference.
Yep. All right, Nicky. Hopefully I'll see you next weekend.
I hope so too.
Have a great week.